Hello students, today we will be discussing the second method of the chapter measurements, that is Van der Pol method. Now this name Van der Pol is because it was first time proposed by the physicist called Leo J. Van der Pol in the year 1958. Now this is a technique which is used to measure many different parameters related to semiconductor devices. It is commonly used to measure resistivity and Hall coefficient of the sample. Now this is a method which is divided mainly into two categories. One involves the presence of magnetic field and the other method is without the use of magnetic field. So when we are going to measure resistivity of sample of any semiconductor sample, we will not be considering magnetic field. So in today's video, we will be discussing the first part of the method, that is resistivity measurement, which does not involve magnetic field. Later portion of the method, the second half of the method, which I'll be discussing in my next video, involves the use of magnetic field. Before that, we'll discuss what exactly is Hall effect, what is Hall coefficient. Let us now just proceed with resistivity measurement. Now from the measurements done, or if you discuss this method, from all the measurements done, we can derive certain properties of a material, namely resistivity of the sample. Now here resistivity of a sample, we actually mean sheet resistance. If you remember in the previous video, we have discussed what exactly is sheet resistance. If you divide resistivity of a material by its thickness, so resistivity divided by conducting material's thickness is known as sheet resistance. So if resistivity of the material is calculated, you can find out sheet resistance, or vice versa. If sheet resistance is determined, we can measure resistivity. Doping type. What do you mean by doping type? Doping type means you can derive whether the material, now you know that extrinsic semiconductor is divided into two categories, P type and N type. So if you have a sample of a material, how can you come to know whether the material is a p-type material, that is whether it is doped by a trivalent impurity or whether it is doped by a pentavalent impurity. So that can also be determined using this method. Once you come to know that the material is p-type or n-type, you will have different type of majority carriers, right? If it is a p-type material, majority will be holes. If it is an n-type material, majority will be electrons. So the carrier density, what do you mean by carrier density? Per unit volume, how many majority carriers are present? That can also be determined using this method. And once the majority carrier density is determined, you can find out the mobility of charge carriers. So you can say that point number 2, 3 and 4 are interrelated. One is determined, the others can be determined. So in today's video, we'll be discussing only the first one, 2, 3, 4 in the later part. Now before you start measurement using Van der Pol method, these are some conditions which need to be satisfied, which must be satisfied if we want to follow Van der Pol method. The first one is sample must have a flat shape of uniform thickness. Shape is not specific. You can have any shape. It can be a square, it can be a rectangle, rhombus, any shape, but it should be flat, uneven, not uneven. It should be flat and the thickness should be uniform. If you consider any part of the sample, thickness should be the same. Sample must not have any isolated holes. Any internal structural defects should not be present in that part of your sample. It must be homogeneous. What do you mean by the word homogeneous? The constitution should be same everywhere. Homogeneous means, I can give you an example of homogeneous. You can consider sugar solution. It is homogeneous. Once it is made, you cannot separate the sugar and water content, right? So homogeneous means evenly distributed constitution. Next, all the four contacts must be located at the edges of the sample. Like we've discussed in the 4-probe method that we use 4 different cables or 4 different contacts. So all the 4 contacts which are made should be at the edges only. Should not be in the center or anywhere. You can consider the corners or you can consider any surface of the side, any edges, any part of the edge. Sample thickness must be much less than width and length of sample. If you consider a rectangular material, say for example, Suppose I say the length is 10 centimeters, width is 10 centimeters, the thickness should not be 10 centimeters. It should be very, very less compared to 10 centimeters. That is what we consider a two-dimensional entity. So sample thickness should be very less as compared to width and length. Now let us see what exactly the construction is. 4 leads or 4 cables are connected to 4 ohmic contacts. What do you mean by ohmic contacts? What actually is done, a simple sheet or a simple sample is taken. In that sample, suppose we are considering corners. So at the 4 corners, contacts are made. Now these contacts can be made using metals. That is, platinum is generally used to make contacts. Now these contacts are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 counterclockwise. Counterclockwise means anti-clockwise. Same batch of wire should be used for all 4 leads. Whatever leads or cables you are using at the 4 different contacts, at all the 4 contacts the wire should be the same, should be of the same material, so that there is no thermoelectric or temperature effect. All 4 and all the ohmic contacts also should consist of same material. So for the method, for the measurement, we will be defining some parameters. We define rho as resistivity of sample, which we will measure in ohm centimeter. D, thickness of conducting layer. Now I12, I means the current which we are going to supply. What does I12 mean? It is a positive DC current I which is injected in contact 1 and which is taken out from contact 2. And we will be considering V12 as DC voltage which is measured between the contacts 1 and 2, that is V1 and V2. Now for the measurements, we will be dividing the measurements into 2 parts. One is vertical measurement, the other one is horizontal measurement. So this is a diagram. See, suppose we consider this as a sample. Sample has very small thickness. You can consider the length and width as compared to both. This thickness is very, very less. The blue colored which I have shown are the 4 contacts at the corners. You can also make the contacts at these edges. It should not be inside the material. It should only be at the edges. So you have labeled them as 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it is counterclockwise labeling. Now in the diagram, see, total 8 measurements will be done. No need to draw 8 different diagrams. You can just draw one diagram, explain 1 or 2 cases and others will be similar. So in this diagram, there is a constant emitter like we had in the 4-probe method, and we have a voltmeter which has a high impedance. So this is a constant current source which will supply current to our contacts. So current is being injected in contact 1 and this current will come out through contact 2. So the flow of current is like this from 1 to 2 and the voltage is measured across 3 and 4. Because it is a high impedance voltmeter, the current will not consider these resistance of the cables, right? It will not pass through the voltmeter. The current is injected through 1 and taken out from 2 and so we call it I12. The voltage is measured between 3 and 4 and we call it as, you can call it as V34 or you can call it as V43. It remains the same. But since the current is 1 to 2, we are just writing, to make it easy, we are writing 43. So in this case, what will be the resistance? We know that resistance according to Ohm's law is V by R. So we can write resistance across these 2 points. It will be the ratio of voltage upon current. So that is this voltage V43 upon this current, that is I12. So we write this as R1243 stands for current and this stands for voltage, that is equals to V43 upon I12. Now what we do is we reverse the current. Once this measurement is done, what is done? The current is reversed. Currently we are having current injected in 1 and taken out from 2. When you reverse, what will happen? The current will be injected from contact 2 and will be taken out from contact 1. So in that case, we will be writing the voltage as V34. Because the current is from 2 to 1, the voltage we will write as V34. So now we reverse the current, that is we inject the current through 2 and take it out from 1. So we call it as I21. We measure the voltage difference between V34 as V34. So the resistance will be this current upon this voltage. So we write R2134 is equals to V34 upon I21. The measurements of the remaining two voltages are also done. They can be, then what will happen is we will remove the current source from this arm and we will connect here and the voltage. So current and voltage will be swapped. So in that case, what will happen? Once we will consider current injected from 4 taken out from 3. Fourth case, current injected from 3 taken out from 4. Accordingly, the voltage will be measured. Now let us move on to the horizontal measurements, part 2 of the method. In this case, what is done? These were the two vertical arms. The emitter and voltmeter is removed, the current meter and the voltmeter is removed, and now they are connected to these two horizontal arms. So apply the current I23 and measure voltage V14. So what is done in this case? In the diagram I have shown that current is injected through 2 and it is taken out through 3. So current will be I23 and the voltage we measure will write as V14. So current injected in 2 and taken out from 3. So we will call it I23. The voltage is measured across 1 and 4, that is we write it as V14. In this case, what will be the resistance? It will be I23 upon V14. So R2314 will be V14 upon I23. And now again, similar to the vertical measurement, again the current is reversed. So now what is done? In the second part, current is injected through contact 3 and taken out from contact 2. So that current we will label as I32 and the voltage we will write as V41. So now we reverse the current, that is we inject the current through 3 and take it out from 2. So we call it current I32. We measure the potential difference between 4 and 1, that is V41. So the resistance will be R3241 is equal to V41 upon I32. The other measurements of remaining two voltages are also done in similar manner. So total 4 vertical measurements and 4 horizontal measurements. So we get total 8, which I have listed below. The total voltage and current measurements are as follows. Vertical measurements. R1243 is equals to V43 upon I12. Then you reverse it. You get R2134 is equals to V34 upon I21. Similarly, R34 means current through 3 and 4, voltage between 2 and 1. So R3421 will be V21 upon I34. Reverse the current. So R4312 is equals to V12 upon I43. Similarly, the horizontal measurements. R2314 is equals to V14 upon I23. R3241, just reversing the current, V41 upon I32. Then what you do is you just switch over the arms. So R4132 is equals to V32 upon I41 and R1423 is equals to V23 upon I14. So total 4 vertical and 4 horizontal, 8 measurements are taken. Why are these 8 measurements taken? Just to achieve a higher accuracy. See, the sample remains the same, the current source also remains the same, and the voltmeter also remains the same. So practically the resistance values are going to come same. But it is just that any human error, if any human error, will be neglected if you average all the measurements. So that is the reason to achieve a higher accuracy we take 8 different measurements. A further improvement in accuracy can be obtained by repeating the resistance measurements after switching the polarities of both current and voltage, current source and voltmeters. What can be done is, we've taken positive DC current. Now you can reverse the polarity of current. You can take negative DC current and reverse the polarity of voltmeters and again take a set of 8 different measurements. 4 vertical, 4 horizontal, and then the average of these 16 can be taken. So the values of R vertical and R horizontal can then be measured. So one is through positive DC, you get 8 measurements, then negative DC, you get 8 measurements. Do not forget to change the polarity of the voltmeters. If you are reversing the current, the voltmeter's polarity should also be reversed. Now if we combine all the measurements above, all the measurements in the sense normal and reversing the polarity of current both, right? In this case, we've only considered positive DC. So R vertical will be R1243 plus R2134 plus R3412 plus R4312 upon 4 average of vertical, and R horizontal will be R2314 plus R3241 plus R4132 plus R1423 upon 4. So average of horizontal. Then you need to remember this van der Pol formula suggested by van der Pol. So van der Pol formula becomes e raised to minus pi r vertical upon rs plus e raised to minus pi r horizontal upon rs should be equal to 1. What is this rs? This is the sheet resistance which we are going to measure. So when we say that, now you know that the value of R vertical and the value of R horizontal will be actually same because it is the same material and the same current source and voltmeters. So practically you should be getting the same values. So we consider that if R vertical is equals to R horizontal is equals to say R, that is the quantity we just measured, we can substitute R vertical as R, we can substitute R horizontal as R. So we get e raised to minus pi r upon rs plus e raised to minus pi r upon rs is equals to 1. This is nothing but 2 e raised to minus pi r upon rs is equals to 1. Or you can say taking log on both sides. You've just taken log on both sides. So minus pi r upon rs is equals to ln 1 by 2, or you can write pi r upon rs is equals to ln of 2. So from this you can substitute Rs. If you take on RHS, Rs will be pi upon Ln2 into R. The value of pi upon Ln2 is approximately 4.53. So Rs will be 4.53 into R. The value of R which you measure, so Rs will be, this is the value of R that you have just measured using the voltmeter and the current reading. So Rs will be 4.53 into R. Now, if we know the layer, the conducting layer thickness, if we know the thickness of the sample, using this measured value of Rs, that is sheet resistance, we can find out surface resistivity as rho, that is the overall resistivity of the sample as Rs into d. You multiply by thickness, you get the resistivity of the sample. So this is the method, this is the van der Pol method which is used to find out resistivity of the sample. Now this itself is a topic which can be a 4 to 7 marks question, that is part A. Hope you've understood the video. Thank you.